SPLICE of Life by Sonya Dorman. Originally published in the first of Damon Knight's Orbit anthologies in 1966 and republished in 4 more anthologies: 100 Years of Science Fiction in 1968, Damon Knight's Collection in 1972, 100 Years of Science Fiction Book 2 in 1972, and a French medical-themed one in 1983. Read by Daryl T. Smith II for my channel, Quasar Spectra. Splice of Life. "This won't hurt," the doctor said, leaning over her in the white hospital bed from which she could see only a great black vault of ceiling in the center of which burned a furious light. A narrow strip of some tape was attached to the nape of her neck. Had she been wounded there also? The doctor's white sleeve crossed her face toward her right eye, and then he plunged the hypodermic through the lower lid and the eyeball, and she let out a scream that bounced off the distant walls and flew back like an arrow into her right eye and all the way out through the back of her head. The attending nurse said, holding her down. "Look up, the doctor commanded. "You must look up." "I will look up unto the hills," she thought fiercely, rolling up her eyeballs, promising herself not to scream again. "Why didn't you warn me, you sadist?" the nurse said in a rage. The doctor began delicately probing through her eye with various instruments, none of which she could feel because she was concentrating so hard on the immediately past pain of the hypodermic and writhing with outrage at being treated like a piece of meat on a butcher block. "What am I, a piece of butcher's meat?" she asked. "Be quiet," said another nurse, more gently, leaning into the view of her left eye, which began to swim with sympathy for the right eye, which she knew, without being told, was past all hope. "Will I have to keep it in a glass of water at night?" she asked. The doctor made a sound like a laugh. "You haven't lost the eye," he said. "What have I lost?" she asked. She could not feel anything except some pressure from his wrist on her cheekbone, so they must have numbed the nerves well with that needle. It was a wonder she had not gone into shock, she thought, and reverted to grieving for whatever it was she had lost. Doctors did not always tell you what. "You may not have any vision in this eye," he said in a tough voice. He was not going to make any compromises with a patient like this. "Remain polite," she warned herself, "or they'll treat you to something even better than a jab in the eyeball and not a word of warning." It was worse having screamed than being hurt, or wasn't it? The pressure was gone from her face. Both eyelids were gently compressed behind wads of cotton, taped on, her skin stretched under the tape. She could hear a small humming, soft as summer afternoons. "You must lie still," the doctor said. "The nurse will give you a pill if you can't stand the pain, but try to hold out." He had no more than said it and gone away on crepe-soled shoes. Then a drill began to eat its way through her right eye in the wake of the hypo needle, and she clenched her jaws, wondering if it was possible to hold out against this. In no more than 20 seconds, after her resolve to be polite and a model patient, she yelled, "Gimme that pill!" The nurse popped a pill into her mouth and gave her a bent glass straw to drink through. "Don't move," the nurse warned. "It's essential for you to be still." Her bed began to glide on soundless casters, accompanied by the soft humming sound and another sound, as though a gallery of people were shifting, shoes scuffling, throats being cleared. She faded out. A dull whiteness shone through everything, bathing her face in faint warmth, and she smelled chicken soup. Her nostrils grew 8 inches wide. Her mouth opened. "Soup," she said. "Ah, you're awake." And the nurse spooned a mouthful in. You look like a hungry bird, the nurse said. More soup was spooned in, but too soon it stopped. Still hungry? The nurse asked. I'm starving. I didn't eat any breakfast this morning. Well, that's a mercy. You should see what happens to some accident cases with their stomachs full. More soup? She begged. Not now. You'd better sleep, and try not to move your head. At intervals, they gave her chicken soup and told her to lie still until it must have been morning, and they spooned in coffee, told her not to move, and gave her something for the red-hot needle in her eye. After a while, she was tired of sleeping and lay with the bandages on her eyes, watching the pictures. They flipped over from right to left. Geraniums, cakes, colors with no names, and the number between 8 and 9 all appeared, flipped, and vanished. When someone spoke to her, the pictures stopped. A little boy's voice said, I've got an amputated arm. Have you got broken eyes? Just one eye, she said, reassuringly. I'd rather have a broken arm, he said. So would I, she said. I'm wearing a green bathrobe. Can you see it? No, silly. Both my eyes are covered. Has it got a green belt? Yeah, but I lost it at Ronnie's house when I slept over. But I don't think I've been to Ronnie's house for a long time. How old is Ronnie? The nurse came in and said, I'm sorry, Miss D. I didn't know he was bothering you. He isn't, she protested. Come on, the nurse said to the little boy. It's all right. He wasn't bothering me, she said. Lie still, the nurse commanded. The pictures started again, some of them highly colored, some of them bleak landscapes of granite and bone. She went to the moon and jumped 19 feet into the air. She fell into a lake where the cold water trickled down her cheek to her chin into the pillow. A pig snuffled at her under the leaf mold and began rooting in her eye until the nurse came in and gave her another pill. After they had spooned cereal into her mouth, she began to think of her mother. She could imagine her mother's great brown eyes streaming tears, buckets of tears, weeping for her poor lost daughter. For God's sake, stop snuffling, she thought her father said. Long-legged, in red-striped shorts, shaving on a sunny morning, with the bathroom steamed up and smelling of cigarette smoke. How are the children? She asked. What children? The nurse demanded. The ones in the other car. They're just fine, the nurse said. One of the children picked up a baseball and threw it at her, and she knew it was going to hit her in the eye, so she ducked. But the pillow held her firmly, and sure enough, it whacked into her eye, and she let out a yell. Shush, dear, the nurse said, slapping her on the back of the neck. I'm 10, the little boy said when she was awake again. My name is Bob, and I only have one arm. I know. You told me. Is it nice to be 10? No, Bob said. How old are you? 20, she said. I didn't like being 10 either. Is 20 better? Sometimes. Oh, the nurse said, coming in. Do they teach you that in nursing school? She asked. Teach us what? All of you say it, all the time. Come along, Bob. You aren't supposed to be in here, you know. The nurse came back with the doctor, who said, You may sit up now. No, thanks. I'm quite comfy this way. I mean, you may sit up in bed now, the doctor said. I don't want to, she giggled. Nurse, the doctor asked in an undertone, how much Nembutal has she been getting? We don't want her to be too difficult. Rustle of charts. Oh, the doctor said. Well, well, Miss D. We'll try again later, won't we? There's a dog under the bed. Nobody's fed him. Yes, the doctor said and sighed. A terrier. He ought to be fed. The nurse sighed. We'll feed him, dear. Don't worry. There really seemed to be a dog under the bed, her comfortable companion, kennelled between the downfalls of the aseptic bedspread. She threw her pillow down so he would have something to be on. After a while, the dog crept out, tweaking the wire that hung down from the back of her neck, and he went away. She wanted him back for company. She wanted more Nembutal for comfort. All of a sudden, she wanted to be loved. When she tilted the glass, champagne swirled and a few bubbles plopped against her cheeks sweetly. Love, love, dancing and music. What was the eye going to look like? Will it look horrible? She asked the doctor, who was snipping around the bandages with cold metal. Certainly not. A film will have formed over the scar tissue. We'll remove the film at a later time. Using another of those darling needles in the eye? Keep your eyes closed, he ordered, and she obeyed. You don't want it done without anesthesia, he commented. He removed the cotton pads, and her lids felt chilled. You may try to open them, he said. Try? Try, indeed, to breathe. She lifted her lids, and the daylight seared her eyes blind in less than a second. Tears spurted out and poured down her face. It will take some time, the doctor said. The nurse mopped her face. A little bit at a time, the doctor said. It's Sunday. I want to read the funnies. Well, you go right ahead and read them, he said, and she felt something. The papers? Thrust at her clenched right hand. She grabbed it. She opened the lid of the good eye and peeked. The pirates of Duran ran all colors of the rainbow. The balloons were full of black ants. She closed her eyes, tried again in a few minutes. Betsy swam in green soup. Leeks sprouted at the edge of the page. Oh, to hell with it, she said, lying down. From time to time she lifted her lids cautiously, and each time opened them further, kept them open longer. For hours she practiced, right on through the spinach and lime sherbet. When the nurse came in, she asked, May I have a mirror? We don't keep them in the rooms, dear. When you're able to walk, you can find one in the bathroom. But how do I look? She asked. The nurse stood staring seriously at her. Not badly, the nurse assured her. Your eye is clouded with scar tissue, but that will be removed later. She groaned. It looks lousy. I knew it. Thanks anyway. The nurse continued to view her sternly until she said, It's all right, nurse. There's a good girl, the nurse said. Lie down for a bit and rest. The nurse went out to the doctor, who was across the corridor, standing in the doorway of a huge classroom, talking with two visitors. The nurse said to him, Shall we discontinue Miss D's cycle? Yes, but only for 2 days. We have a new class of ophthalmologists already waiting. Then he turned courteously to the visitors. Her circuit has now been fully rerun, the doctor explained to them. After 2 days, it will be run again. One of the visitors asked, But how do you start it at the beginning? The doctor looked surprised. Oh, but we reproduce the original wound, or damage, of course. The other visitor asked, Are they never conscious? Are they never aware at some point of rerunning? Certainly not, the doctor said in a shocked voice. How do you replace them? The doctor put his hands in his pockets and began to lead the visitors down the corridor toward another room. This floor is always full, he explained. Accident cases who remain unidentified or who have no relatives, or for the most part, who have no money and can't pay hospital bills. The nurse passed them and went into the patient's room with a tray on which stood a little paper cup with pills in it. More pills? She asked. Now, Miss D, we're doing so well. Don't you want to go home, to be all finished up here? She began to murmur, All finished, all washed up, all done for," while the nurse put the pill into her mouth and gave her a glass of water. "Yes, yes, home to Mom, all finished up, home to the dial a slice. As the drowsy waves came washing over her. "Take another sip," the nurse said, pressing the glass against her lower lip. She gulped twice, once for the pill, then for the water. Take me home. Carry me back, my eyes all filled in, not a penny in the socket. I'll be asleep soon." "This won't hurt," the doctor said, leaning over her. She saw his white sleeve cross her face toward her right eye, and then he plunged the hypodermic through the lower lid and the eyeball, and she let out a scream. The attending class of young students in the auditorium shuddered and leaned forward for a better view. "Look up," the doctor commanded. "You must look up." "I will look up unto the hills," she said fiercely, promising not to scream again. She looked up, out over the plastic cage of the hypodermic to the range of hills covered with crackling snow. They were all there, all the people. They must be out for a winter picnic. "I will go," she promised. "I'll get up and go," she yelled. The doctor murmured, all right, track's wearing out. I knew it would." And then, raising his voice slightly as he continued to probe in the depths of her eye, he said to her, "Yes, you'll go. You'll get a splendid vacation." "But I want to take my eye with me," she insisted. "I must. I need it." "Hush, now," the nurse said soothingly. "You'll take your eye," the doctor promised her. "Hold still now. We'll finish soon." But there was despair in his voice, and she did not believe him. Obviously she had lost the eye, and what else had she lost? She did not dare to move her head, but under the cold, sterile sheet that covered her, she clasped her wrinkled hands. Welcome to Quasar Spectra. This is the audio-only version of my YouTube channel where we explore the universe of pre-90s speculative fiction with a highlight on science fiction. Here you'll find mostly short stories and novellas, but also some novels, as well as works about the genre itself, including articles, essays, and reviews. Playlists are available by subject matter. All reading, writing, music, and editing by Daryl T. Smith II, never AI. Please send requests to either my X page or website, where you'll find all relevant links and news, both of which are linked. I own no copyright to anything read here, only give them my voice.